Hello and welcome to the boss guide portal. Feel free to click an annotation to see a strategy guide from me, TSW, on any of the bosses in 4.2 Firelands. Enjoy, and as always, thumb up the video, thanks. Hey guys, TSW here with TGN, and this is my guild strategy for Alysrazor, the burning fire boss in Firelands. We begin the encounter with everyone being stacked up on this position. The idea of this is because when the boss is started, we're all going to take an AoE knockback, and when we're all knocked back in one position, we can all be nicely AoE healed for the boss's firestorm, which will begin once you start the encounter by interacting with the burning feather on the floor. Periodically through the encounter, the boss will fly down the middle of the zone, and anyone caught in the middle of the zone in front of the boss will be attacked by his blazing claw, doing frontal cone AoE damage and increasing your damage taken by fire damage. This isn't great as there is a lot of fire damage going out. Also, it does a moderate amount of fire damage, so it's definitely worth looking out for. And with any of the other damage going out, get hit by the blazing claw, the chances are you're going to die, especially being a tanking later on. So here he is doing his blazing claw ability down the centre of the zone. The hitbox is huge. I'm able to melee him from over here, so melee, don't worry too much about getting out of range. You definitely want to be avoiding the blazing claw as priority. The hitbox is huge. Okay, so now we have some of these birds coming down. These are Blazing Talon Initiates. These guys have just under 2 million HP and will cast Fire Blast, which need to be interrupted by melee, as well as summoning brush fires. These are burning balls of fire, which you can see there. These travel in a straight line, do quite a lot of damage, and are easily avoided. DPS's job is to get these down before we get the hatchlings. So the boss drops 2 molten eggs on the ground. The tanks need to be the guys closest to these eggs, because the eggs will very quickly hatch into hatchlings, and the hatchlings will focus on one target, the target that is closest to them when they come out of the eggs. So make sure this is a tank, because this is the target the hatchlings will focus their abilities on. The tanks don't only get fixated on, but also get a debuff, increasing the tank's damage by 1000%. This is essential to be able to kill these hatchlings. The hatchlings have 31.5 million HP each, and as such need to be killed quickly by the tanks. For this fight, I favoured going for the soft cap of expertise, which is 26, enabling me to do a lot more damage, especially with the 1000% debuff. Throughout this phase, the hatchlings will periodically gain a buff called Tantrum, increasing their damage by 100% and haste by 100%. Generally speaking, you want to pop cooldown as soon as you see the ad, get this buff. In order to relieve them of this huge damage increase, you want to kite them over lava worms. The lava worms you can see around the side of the room, they do frontal cone AoE damage and they rotate. Make sure you aren't stood in front of this fire damage because it hurts and you don't want to be caught off guard when you're low from damage from the hatchling and then take a tick from the lava worm, you're going to die. Once you run your hatchling over a lava worm, they'll be satiated, heavily reducing their chance to get Tantrum. I never once saw Tantrum once the ad was satiated, so you can pretty much go by the fact that once it's satiated you won't see a Tantrum. So that's it for the ground portion of this phase. The people who got 3 feathers and were able to fly, they will be the ones damaging the boss during this phase. What you want to be doing is grabbing 3 feathers early on in this phase, enabling you to fly. Now what you want to do is get as many DPS there as possible whilst keeping the blazing talons dead and killing off these hatchlings. Generally speaking, you can just have the tank on the hatchlings, provided that they can do enough damage with the 1000% buff. We had them about 5-10% HP. Once we hit the next phase, we had a few of the buff melee just attack the hatchlings and they died pretty soon after, as you can see once we hit the next phase. But during the first phase, the melee or the casters or whoever it is that you get sent up with 3 of the burning feathers, what they want to do is run through the fire rings to continue their flying buff and also increasing their damage. Do as much damage as you can to the boss whilst avoiding the clouds. Okay, so we've just phased it pretty much. There's a massive fire vortex in the middle of the zone. You want to be avoiding this as it does large amounts of fire damage. However, there are still fiery tornadoes which are moving, circling around this fire vortex. As you can see, it's very, very easy to avoid these vortexes, and you can pretty much just run behind one of them if you have a feather buff, or you can just, like me, rotate round and not get hit. Okay, so the boss is now down on the floor. Now the boss has a buff called Burnout, increasing damage done by 50%. This is when you want to pop your hero and do as much damage to the boss as you can. There will also be 2 Blazing Talon Claw Shapers. These will try and channel a cast on Alysrazor, increasing the generation of his energy. Now once his energy reaches 50, he will come from lying down on the ground and start flying up. And then this is when he needs to be tanked. But for now, he's on 0 energy, he's going up steadily. You want to CC those Talon Shapers as much as you can and have them not channel. Now the boss is at 50 energy, he'll be tanked. We've got our Druid tank tagging him here. We're doing as much damage as we can, as well as AoE healing. It's very important that you do lots and lots of AoE healing here because he'll be doing his Firestorm ability. Whichever tank has cooldowns remaining simply picks up Alysrazor and faces him away from the raid, so you then get hit by his Blazing Claw ability. And that, my friends, is essentially the fight. What's going to happen now is it'll just go again around and around until you eventually kill the boss or wipe. We popped Hero during that phase just so we can get as much damage as we can. That's basically your burn phase. Ideally, you want to be saving every single one of your cooldowns for that. Now we go back to the beginning. We've got the Blazing Initiates. We want to be interrupting as we did before. They're going to be casting their Bush Fire. We want to be interrupting their Fire Blast. And again, he's going to drop the eggs. People who are going to be flying up and DPSing Alysrazor from the sky need to be grabbing their burning feathers as soon as possible. I think we had 6 people fly up. I believe that's the maximum amount you are allowed to with the feathers given at the beginning. Throughout this phase, feathers will be dropping, so your healers can, if they want, be able to move 30% extra speed whilst healing. We have our DPS on the Initiates, just making sure that we don't get that many Fire Blasts killing the raid, as well as the Balls of Fire. As you can see here, I did then, I believe, have to take a tick of the Frontal Cone AoE from the Lava Worms, as well as trying to get rid of the Hatchlings buff whilst popping cooldown. If I didn't have a cooldown there, I would quite simply have died. I think I used the Enraged Rejuvenation. Or Regeneration. I call it Rejuvenation. I think some people picked up on me that I called it a different name, but it's the same thing. And I don't think I've ever called it Regeneration, except for just now. So basically, all I'm doing is tanking the Hatchling. Excuse me. I'm just doing my DPS rotation, Shield Slam, then anything to proc Sword and Board for the next 2 globals, and then a Shockwave if it's off cooldown. Should probably be rending a little bit more than I'm doing, but I really hate faffing around with rend. I do have my 26 expertise, so I'm able to not get any of my attacks dodged, which is great. Really good DPS boost. And basically shitting myself every time the Hatchling gets the Tantrum buff, because you go down fast, okay? What I like to do is Heroic Leap on the other side of a Lava Worm. That way you take, oh, like this. Ideally not into one of the AoE fireballs, because that would do damage. But again, it's less damage than the Hatchling with a 100% increased damage and haste buff. Okay, so now we have all of the Blazing Talent Initiates down. The remaining DPS on the ground will be damaging my Hatchling. The Feral Druid we have here didn't seem to have a problem at all with the DPS, however I did. So we had 1 or 2 of the DPS finishing off my ad with me. Again, we have the ad with the buff increasing his damage, the Tantrum. There are no worms remaining. This quite simply calls for you to use cooldowns. Call for healing cooldowns. Here we go into the phase where we have the Fire Vortex in the middle. We have to be avoiding the Fire Tornadoes. Really, really easy. You know where all the tornadoes are coming from. One of the things we did was basically get in the position where one of the tornadoes just went, because you're gonna be able to stand there for the greatest amount of time before the next tornado comes. So here we are. We have Alysrazor on 0 energy. Over time, his energy will drop. When it does, he will land on the floor and also take 50% increased damage. Word on the street is, or in our event, is that the Rep Paladin can Hammer of Justice, can interrupt Hammer of Justice and interrupt the Blazing Talon Claw Shaper. Basically, all they do is channel a cast on Alysrazor, increasing his energy regeneration, and we want his energy to go up as slowly as possible. There is also no damage going out at this stage. Also, anyone attacking Alysrazor, each attack they do, they will get 10% of their mana back. So healers, you want to be damaging, get your mana back. And even if you didn't get Man in the Back, you still want to be doing as much damage as you can, because there's no damage going out until now. When he reaches 50 energy, he'll be doing his Firestorm ability. Everyone hug up, do your AoE heals, and it's no problem whatsoever. And as you can see, we managed to kill Alysrazor. Like I said, it's about 15, 16 attempts we had. This was still on our first night's raiding, and a lot of you were asking about loot. So as you can see here, I'm slowly going through the loot. I've been TSW with TGN. Please click on annotation to see another one of my guide videos. As always, I will catch you guys later, and thumbs up the video. Thanks. Cheers. Bye.